Henry?
Governor and Madam Attorney General, on Prop 1, you mentioned fighting back against any actions that the incoming Trump administration might take. What options exactly does Prop 1 give you against a federal abortion or gender-affirming care regulation or law? Can you explain exactly what action that you could take now that you couldn't take before?
Yes, and I'm happy to actually, the Attorney General can answer. I can also have my counsel, who's been working on this intensely, explain that these are rights that are now enshrined in the Constitution, but I'm also, and I'll let them answer, but I'm also concerned about federal regulatory action, like Donald Trump putting someone who's anti-reproductive freedom in the Department of Health and Human Services, or those agencies that would determine whether or not medication-assisted abortion is legal, or even mifepristone, or maybe even contraceptions. I mean, these are regulated by the federal government, the FDA and other agencies, and so that's sort of the pressure point for us. And that calls upon us through this new initiative I'm announcing today that we anticipate the worst and hope for the best in some of these areas, and that would be also if we feel we need to stockpile, just like we talked about the last time when we thought there could be a Supreme Court decision that banned some of these medications that women used. So, Attorney General, do you want to answer? The attorney? Okay, Brian, this is my counsel, Brian Mahana.
Good afternoon. So it's hard to anticipate exactly what sort of challenges the federal government might undertake that would potentially undercut New Yorkers' reproductive rights or other rights that are now greater protected by Proposition 1. I mean, what the proposition does is enshrine in our statute a certain set of, enshrine in our Constitution a certain set of rights in broad respects. And so depending on what the federal government does, the state government may have some responsibilities to further protect those rights, or may have some authorities or additional legal justifications for resisting federal encroachment. So, yes, the federal government certainly has, if they were to enact a statute, federal law would apply to the extent that it's not, that there is not a 10th Amendment or other sort of states' rights justification for resisting a federal policy. But I would say it's not possible to sort of anticipate every different type of way that the federal government may seek to interfere with those rights. But what we have done is enshrine in New York state law and the New York state Constitution additional powers both from the state government to resist federal threats and for individual New Yorkers to do so as well.
Can I just add on something on that, though? But also, you're talking about threats from the federal government. It also matters who's sitting in the governor's seat. To run against someone, as I recently did, who openly said that he'd put in someone who is what he called pro-life, in key positions in the administration. I think that's what you also have to be aware of. New Yorkers need to be aware of, that this is further protection against someone who could be sitting in this seat, who is hostile to the rights of women. So it's not just federal protections, it's also state protections.
Let me just quickly say this. The question that you're posing is whether or not New York would be preempted by a federal policy, a regulation. You have to draw a distinction between a regulation and a law. Regulation, I would say no. A law would be a different outcome.
Okay, Andrew?
One for the